I grew up in poverty. I am the only one of my mom's children that went to college. And um, my brother always tells me, when is enough ever going to be enough? And I'm like, never. I mean, like, if I could be 1% better tomorrow, why would I not? I always tell my team, if you've spent less than 10 minutes on the phone, you haven't done a good job. I changed everybody to a 4-day work week because I found that if somebody worked over 36 hours in a week, that they called out the next week.
This is Optometrists Building Empires, and I'm your host, Ankit Patel. Each week, we'll explore the journey of practice ownership and leadership in optometry. Join us for insights and strategies from the top minds in our field. This show is sponsored by My Business Care Team. My Business Care Team helps your office increase revenues, reduce costs, and reduce staffing headaches. Let's build your empire together. Today's guest is someone I'm thrilled to have on the show today. She's an accomplished eye care professional who combines clinical excellence with a distinctive approach to eyewear and patient experience. Her clinical training included an externship ocular disease at the Tuscaloosa VA Medical Center and a primary eye care rotation at a private practice in Birmingham, Alabama, where she was recognized as an outstanding clinician in ocular disease. Her current practice is built on the belief that exceptional vision care and personal expression should go hand in hand. She's owner optometrist at ForSight Unique Eye Care. Please welcome Dr. Erika Morrow. Erika, welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. I was just saying before we started, I love your glasses. Those are cool looking. So for those who are not on the video, you should check out the YouTube video. They look really cool. I love your perspective on how you run your practice. With that, what was the most important thing that helped you grow your empire in your practice?
So when I opened ForSight, the most important thing I think for me was scouting out an area that had a need and then trying to do every single thing different in comparison to what was surrounding the area. And so then from there, I just looked for ways to be different and provide different experience from my decor to the products I carry to the patient's experience from start to finish. And some of that includes like my patient relaxation area is literally a 9-foot sofa and a little hutch that I had repainted that was my mother-in-law's wedding gift. And, just a lot of touches that make it personal, but not like a clinical setting.
What did you decide to keep the same? Or what did you change and you were like, I don't like this, I'm going to keep it like everyone else? Was there anything like that? Or it's truly everything different?
I definitely wanted to, I didn't want patients to feel like a number at my practice. I wanted them to feel like we were building a relationship and creating a connection. And by doing that, I have really grown and kind of saturated my community. There's not a lot of places you'll go where people don't know my name or know ForSight. And I've done that because I've created an environment where people feel comfortable. Like on Reddit, somebody said, I just want to go here and drink tea on the sofa. So that's how I knew I made it different.
That's awesome. When people on Reddit like you made it. I don't know if people know about that. Yeah. That's a tough audience. And so question, let's go from this a different perspective. Let's say I'm a brand new patient. How am I going to find you? What's the most likely path for me to get to where you are? Am I going to meet you in the community? Is it going to be word of mouth? Is it going to be looking up my insurance? What's a typical way people find you? Let's start with that. And I'm kind of walking through, I want to walk through the experience.
I definitely think word of mouth is probably one of our biggest ways that people find us. And then from there, my social media. People come across us on social media and they're like, your social media is so fun. So I'd say that. And then we do some advertising with Google Ads just to make sure that people find us.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit more, the social media, do you all manage it? Is there something particular way that you manage it? We had another guest on it from Canada who's really good at it. And her lessons were be personable and just try to have a unique voice, but just be you. What do you do? That maybe your secret sauce.
I used to outsource it and I did that for a long time. And then I started to hire creative people or people that were more interested in being creative with social media. And so now we just run it entirely from the office, but the girls love to do funny stuff. And when they do funny stuff, it really creates a lot of traction. And then people really do love to see the doctor. So when I go on there or my associate doctor is on there, we get a lot of engagement that way too. We do try to keep it pretty lighthearted. We don't do a ton of like really heavy education because it's social media, and when we do something that has a little bit of education to it, you get a lot of know-it-alls that follow in the comments. So, those things that we just try to keep it pretty lighthearted and, make people smile.
I'm pretty sure everyone listening has patients like that, so they can empathize. So I love that. So word of mouth, some social, some paid ads. And now let's say, okay, I see you. I want to see Dr. Morrow. I'm gonna pick up the phone, maybe go to the website, book an appointment. Is there anything unique or different you do on the phones, or is it standard like, hey, let's get you in? Tell me about the phone experience. Is there anything different there?
I always tell my team, if you've spent less than 10 minutes on the phone, you haven't done a good job. So, I think really getting to know what that person needs, building trust and relationship, being someone more than just like, how can I help you? I think that has really set us apart. We do have online scheduling and we do get, I would probably say 30% of our patients schedule online, new and existing patients. Um, but if they schedule online, they still go through what we call an eyewear discovery call. And we kind of just talk to them about, okay, how did you find us? What are your needs? What's happening right now? Because a lot of people, they're like, we had one the other day and there's like, well, I noticed I can't really see out of this area. And I think my vision's just blurry. Like after we were on the phone for about 4 minutes. And it's like, well, that's probably not something we should wait for. Let's see if we can get you in sooner. So I really think it really comes to building up relationship on the phone and creating that discovery where you can see how you can better help that guest.
First of all, I like how you call it a guest. And then second off, so you're actually almost doing an intake process on the phone.
Yeah, a little bit. We ask them where they went previously, why they didn't return, what type of eyewear they wear, how did they hear about us, um, what's their biggest problem right now? If we could solve one thing today, what would it be? And then, it goes from there. So insurance questions or, okay, that sounds like a medical problem. What's your medical insurance? But after you've kind of learned more about the guest and you're using their name and you're creating that relationship.
Let's say, okay, you do the intake and there's the intake. So it could be the same call or it could be a secondary call. Let's say they're busy. They're like, okay, we're going to do a quick check-in call with you before you come in. And so you do the intake, or what do you call it? You call it optical.
We just discovery, just like how can we help you? So like eyewear discovery is kind of like a term that I use through a company that I kind of do a lot of coaching. I receive coaching from. It's called Optical Success
Oh yeah.
Academy, and so that's one of those things that is kind of built into their whole system. And we definitely have adapted that, and it's helped us grow a lot.
Okay. And as far as so that happens when they come and then they come in. Um, is that what happens next after they make the appointment? They come in.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when they come in, how does that walk me through as I was a patient, walk me through how I would go through the entire process.
So when you come through the door, you should be immediately greeted by anyone that's within 10 feet of you. Hey, good morning. How are you? Come on up to the front desk. The patient care coordinators are instructed to stand when someone comes in, and then they just, how's your drive? What was, how's the weather? Did you find everything okay? Just trying to find one question to get the attention off. Oh, I'm here to check in, right? And then we present a router to the patient once we've made it through that introduction part, just to be as transparent as possible with our fees and our their expected payments up front, which I think is really beneficial as a consumer, and also too, so immediately if your guys are on the wrong page. And and really it doesn't happen a whole lot, but you do occasionally get that where through the eyewear discovery we weren't able to tease that out of them. But at least at check-in before we get them back to the doctor, yeah, I think that's very transparent with them.
Just curious, do you take managed care or is it all self-pay?
No, we are not self-pay. So I accept vision service plan and IMED, and then we're on all of the medical plans, not any state insurances.
And you're located, for the audience, where are you located again?
Savannah, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. Yeah. And so, as far as your check-in process, I love how you do that. And I want everyone to keep in mind that this is with managed care. So the $20, $40, $50 reimbursements, right? So, um, when you give them the fee transparency, what do you put on there? Just their like, hey, here's your contribution for your exam. Here's your, because I mean, the glasses piece can get confusing. They're not really going to know what they're going to spend until the end. How do you manage that with the transparency? How do they not say like, oh, you told me it was only going to be this upfront, right? How does that work?
Yeah. So on the router, we list what it is for the exam, what it is for contact lenses, and then what it is for retinal imaging. At my office, retinal imaging is not optional. And so if we're really at 6.5 years in, we don't have a lot of people that ask about it. Um, but then when it comes to spectacles, we have a little box down there that talks about your benefits available. It will say available, or it will say the date it's available. But we try not to highlight when it's not available because we still offer, prompt paid things that allow them to still utilize their lens benefit or whatever. But we just kind of focus on how can we help them today with what's available. And then after the exam, we do a handoff, and that's when the optician takes the patient and then goes through that process through the optical with them, and then does a pricing guide and
Post exam, correct? Gotcha. Okay.
yes.
So by the way, I'm taking notes for myself on this too. As we're talking, I love what you're sharing. This is actually brilliant stuff. This is actually unique. So I haven't heard this experience from most people that we've had on the podcast. And so let's go into the tech side. Now they've come in. Anything unique about the workup? Any questions that you asked are unique? Any procedures besides making fundus mandatory? I think that's more of a common trend that we're seeing now. The retinal imaging is mandatory.
So my technician, they're always like, "Hi, I'm Lily, and I'm whether Dr. Morrow or Dr. Keller's technician. I'm gonna get you started today before the doctor takes over." And they're like, "Okay, great." So then they start. We do an autorefraction, eye care tonometry, and then the optomat. And then they go into the exam room, and in there they'll run through the health questionnaire, ask them about their eyes. Where did they go before? How come they didn't go there again? I think when you find out why somebody didn't return somewhere, you learn how to be a better provider yourself. And so when my technician captures that information, they didn't like that doctor because it felt busy. They didn't like that doctor because they didn't listen. And so then it just reminds me as a provider, how could I do that differently? And so they ask about that. And then how often do you sleep in your contacts? How often are you replacing your lenses? What solution do you use? I mean, just things that I don't think get asked a lot. Um, and to me, they're really important questions. If someone's like, "Oh yeah, my eyes are dry," and they're using the Kirkland brand saline, oftentimes you can fix their problem by just changing one thing.
That's brilliant because you're the devil's in the details, right? And so if you're seeing, and so now we're done with the teching, and then they go to the doctor.
Yeah, so then the technician will page the doctor. We use Weave in my office, so we use it for patient communication, and then we use the chat feature to page the doctors. Or if I'm in my office, my technician will just come and give me a quick rundown real quick. And then I go in, I introduce myself. Typically, I shake their hand if they're open to it, and then I wash my hands, and then I sit down and just start chatting with them a little bit. If they're existing patients, typically we have something to talk about. If they're new patients, and I try to figure out one thing I can learn about them so that it helps me remember them. And then I ask them how they use their eyes, if they could fix one thing, what would that one thing be? And I kind of focus on that and then kind of expand from there. Because people come in, I want my vision's blurry, my eyes are really dry, my this and that, and then you get to the appointment, you're like, here's your prescription, but you're like, oh crap, did we address their 5 things? And I'll remind my technician, if it gets too heavy medical or they're talking about things that are like obviously not routine. Oh, you know what? This sounds like a medical portion of the appointment. So what we're going to do is I'm going to run this by Dr. Morrow, but what's possible is this appointment's going to switch into a medical exam. You're still going to get great care, but we're going to do a couple extra things, but it will be billed to your medical insurance. So she kind of puts that on the front end. And then when I come in, it's an easier conversation to say, oh yeah, this medical thing's happening or this is going on. And then I can spend more time. Or, hey, listen, today we're just going to focus on your routine checkup. We're going to make sure you're seeing your best, but then we're going to bring you back to bring up some of your medical things that you got going on. I just want to make sure that, we're taking care of what we need to today without keeping you here too long. When you focus on the patient and you acknowledge that, they just drove there. I'm in a downtown area where parking's tough. We want to make sure that their time isn't running out on their parking meter, So all of it, I think, just comes from asking little questions along the way.
You're in a pretty competitive environment, right? So I imagine there's a lot of competition near you. So you have to really make it a good experience and make it worthwhile. Especially if I'm paying the parking to pay for an exam. That's a lot, right? So yeah, absolutely. Better be. Yeah, I want to make sure it's. Um, Now with that, going back a little bit, I'm more curious for myself here. In your super your traveler or your super bill or the not, what'd you call it? Sorry, router. Sorry, router. Uh, yeah, everyone's got a slightly different name for router is a common name too. Do you put the medical pricing in there too? You gather, or do you leave that out?
But before they come in, they're required to send their medical insurance card, and if we need their vision card, obviously, you typically just know what you need to pull up a vision program. Um, but that's required for them to check in. And if they don't have a medical card, my team puts an alert on their account that says out of network for medical, or medicals not accepted, or Ambetters their medical.
Yeah, and that's for those who don't know, Embeddor is a state plan here in Georgia. So, and okay, so now they're with you. Before they got to your chair, before the doctor got paged, is there a handoff between the tech and the doctor that happens behind the scenes?
Sometimes my technician will come in, particularly if it's something that just requires a little more, "Hey, Dr. Morrow, just be aware of this," or, "Hey, so and so referred this patient, so just maybe acknowledge that." But a referral source is required in my office before I ever enter the room. And if it's not there, I'm always like, "Guys, there's no referral reason," because I feel like that's a really easy way to just communicate with the patient about something different than what they're there for.
Oh, you heard? I hear Mr. Smith sent you in. Appreciate you coming in. Yeah, love that.
And I have an exceptional memory. I don't know why my husband is always like, "How do you remember this stuff?" But I have a really, really good sense of remembering people. And so I typically can always strike a conversation about who referred them or how they heard it. If it's a magazine or if it's, an ad, then I say, "Oh yeah, what'd you think about that dress?" Or "What'd you think about those glasses?" Or "Hey, that's so cool that you found us there."
Nice. I like that. And is there anything special or different that you do in your exam that other doctors may not do, or not as common practice?
People always say, "I've never had an eye exam like this before," and it's all I'm doing is what we all should be doing. I don't It's so weird when people tell me that. I say, "Oh, okay, well, that makes." But I don't do anything that's crazy. We do all of the normal cover tests, MPC, um, and then when come into the refraction, I do the refraction. I always check a near point refraction no matter what, no matter how old they are. Um and then if I have anybody that's like double whenever I first open both eyes and they're four-opter, then I'll throw in some Risley prism just to make sure that it's not like a foria that I broke down, or if it's truly something that, because people who have double vision don't ever describe double vision. It's blurry vision. So, I've gotten a lot of prism that way, and I've actually gotten a lot of my most loyal clients from just fixing diplopia, which has been interesting. When I move into the exam, I always do a 90 doctor exam of the posterior pole and the nerve. Then I move into so let me back up one second. So after I'm done with the refraction, I immediately talk about their vision. This is what your vision could be. This is where it was. This is the improvement that we'll make. I talk about it in steps or dollars. I'll say, "Oh, it changed by $1 worth of prescription or 50 cents worth of prescription." And then um I'll talk if they've never worn progressives, I educate on that, or I also do a lot of anti-fatigue lenses, so I talk about that, especially with digital device users. And then I say, "All right, great. We got you seeing your very best. Now we're gonna move into the health part of the exam." And so then I do the health part of the exam, and after that, I say, "All right, I walk them through an anatomy of the eye, and then let's pull up the images together, and then I put it in 3D mode, and then we review the back of the eye together."
I think there's a lot of little subtle things that it would be get lost in the details. I think because like I think you're right. But I don't think that all those steps happen in every single exam because like, oh, I got another patient in the room waiting for me and two more in the lobby, so I got to keep moving, right? And so it's an interesting perspective. I like just by doing everything that you're taught to do. People are like, I've never had such a thorough exam. I love that. Um, and after that, is there a handoff in the chair that's pretty common, or how do they go to the next step, whether it's contact lens purchase or optical or both?
My goal is to have 100% of patients have an optical styling appointment. It's just a handoff that I do. It's a goal that I say, "Okay, every single time I have someone that's done, they're gonna get their glasses tuned up and adjusted, or they're going to review contact lens pricing, or they're gonna have a optical styling." And so I'll say, "Oh, I'm gonna page someone into the exam room, so you're gonna notice that door open here in just a moment." And then when the person comes into the room, the optician comes into the room, I say, "Oh, this is so and so. They met us through whatever. And then here's what I found today with the prescription. This is what I think would be best for their visual needs." If you can learn a little bit more about how they use their eyes every day, and then since you're a lens expert, help them pick a design. I was telling them that there's 2,000 progressive designs on the market. So I know that you are an expert here. So you can help them choose the best one for how they use their eyes. And then my opticians are trained to immediately start asking about the patient, not like, "Come with me and have a seat in this chair and we're going to do this." "Oh, hey, how are you? How was your exam today? I'm Marielle. I'm going to walk you up to the front. Can I get you something to drink?" And then we're going to have a seat right here. And then it just goes from there. And really, in the optical session, you should be there for at least 20 minutes, or you didn't ask enough questions, in my opinion.
Are they talking and chatting for that period before they do selection, or is it a combination? Is it just for the feel of where the patient is? Is that
Yeah, some of them do. I feel like if you put the patients like, I have one optician that I feel like does really, really well of ignoring that if there's somebody that seems apprehensive, but I have another one that kind of fixates on it. Well, they seemed apprehensive. I'm like, well, that could be just their personality, right? Like, I'm not super, whenever I go into a sales environment, I'm not very chatty, but if you get me talking, it's very easy. So they'll start by asking them questions and then they review their vision plan if they have a vision plan, or they'll talk about what foresight we have a foresight vision plan. So they'll talk about that with them and then say, oh, out of your current glasses, what do you love most? And then they'll kind of tell them, oh, I don't like nose pads, or I like the plastic, or I don't love this. Oh, okay, that's this really great brand a collection that we carry, and we'd love to just try a few on. I'm going to grab a few real quick. Can I get you anything? Before I step away. Nope. All right, great. So then they pick a few frames, they bring them on a presentation tray, and then they allow the patient to start trying them on.
let's say they come in, they buy anything special in the checkout process? Is that where you ask them for referrals, or do you know a friend, or how does where does that happen there? Or tell me about the checkout. Is anything special there?
Yeah, I feel like in the exam room, I always say, tell so and so thanks for the referral. So I think it comes more from the doctor.
So now they've checked out, they've purchased their glasses. Tell me about follow up and what happens between they check out and then pick up till they come back next year. How do you treat that?
So if they purchase glasses, they're immediately put on the schedule for what we call an optical dispensing appointment. Oh, we're going to go ahead and schedule you for 3 weeks out. If your glasses come in sooner, we'll get that rescheduled sooner. But we love for you to have an appointment where we can just make sure they fit, that you're seeing great, and that we get you everything you need to appreciate your new glasses, or make sure no issues are arise. And then they come in for their optical dispensing appointment. They're asked what they like to drink. So when they get the drinks ready for them, the dispensing trays all set up for them. And then they'll come in for that. And then we always ask them for a photo. So whenever we're telling them their dispensing appointment, we love to show our patients in their eyewear. We'd love to capture you if you feel up to it when you come in. We'd love to photograph you in your new frames because they look so good, or I love that color on you, or whatever it is. They just try to find one thing to compliment them on. Um, and I think that's it. And then from there, we do send newsletters. We send a newsletter out via email every other week. And so they're kind of tied into our community engagement. We do a ton for the community. I donated almost $20,000 from local nonprofits, and we're constantly volunteering and sponsoring different things. So we include that. And then if we get new products or whatever, we also talk about that there.
Gotcha. I like that. And then let's talk about a little bit about the feeling. You mentioned a couple of things of how your office feels. Your glasses are really cool. So I imagine you have a different feel and look in your office. Folks can go to your website and see, I'm sure, but kind of describe how it feels walking into your office, how people are dressed, any smells, any looks. Yeah, talk to me about that. I love the process. Let's talk about how it feels in your office.
I think it feels like high end, a little boutique-ish. And then we use the Pura volcano scent that's used at like Anthropology. So we have little diffusers kind of throughout the office. Some people are very against that. Like online, you'll see people that I have yet in 6.5 years to have someone complain about it. So that's been nice. We do have fresh orchids. So I have a person in the community that takes care of my orchids at the office, and he always keeps our arrangement looking blooming and happy and healthy. We have someone that does our front window displays. So different seasons, she'll come and do a whole painting on the front windows. And that's been a really great thing that we added back in 2025, early 2025. And then I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like our office doesn't, and everyone that walks in is just like, your office is so beautiful. I never have been to a doctor's office like this before. I have chandeliers. I don't have lighting. Like I don't have strict lighting. So all my lighting is chandeliers or pendant lighting. I have really like this is a real tree, but like in my exam rooms, I have fake trees, just to bring in a little bit of like earth to the rooms.
I love that. And let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges you might have had. So as you're building this practice, what is something you ran into that you didn't expect?
I feel like every day you kind of learn something new about business part of it. So I didn't realize that you pay tax when you purchase something, then you pay property tax on it every year. So I think that part has been the hardest part for me is just wrapping my head around my different tax bills. Then you have federal tax bill, a state tax bill, a county tax bill, and then a city tax bill. So every time one comes, I'm like, is this real? Do I pay this? How do I calculate it? But obviously having an accountant makes that much easier. So I think that's probably been the hardest part for me is just learning that business part of it when it comes to taxes and that kind of stuff.
Now you have a second doctor, correct? Is it just
Yes.
you as ownership, or is the doctor a partner with you? Just you.
I'm not great at sharing.
Fair enough. How do you make sure the experience is just as good with the other doctors, other staff members?
So it just requires constant coaching. I mean, I'll listen to phone calls or I'll have a patient make a little comment and I'll say, I'm going to see how that went. Or patients feel very open about reaching out to me because they see me out at the restaurants, they see me out at the bar, they see me out at the live music things going on in town. So they have no problem connecting with me as a person and say, hey, Dr. Morrow, this happened whenever I did this. I'm like, oh, let me look into that. Let me make sure that we follow up on that. Um, and I one thing I think that is really cool that we do, and my staff is really involved in it as well, is we have something I don't know if you've ever read the book Unreasonable Hospitality.
I've heard of it. Tell me a little more about it.
Unreasonable Hospitality is about this restaurant group. There's a show on Netflix, I think, called The Bear. It might be yeah. So it's kind of based on that book with Unreasonable Hospitality, where you just listen to people. So sometimes we'll get people that complain that the parking was problematic, or I drove here to see Dr. Morrow from I used to practice about an hour and a half away. And so if my staff hears that, they'll add their name to the Unreasonable Hospitality matrix that we have, and then I'll send them an iTunes gift card so your drive can be easier next time. Or hey, here's a gift card to the local coffee shop, so when you come in, you can pick up a coffee for your way out for the drive home. Or hey, thanks for dealing with the parking. We apologize. We're so honored that you're here. Um, and I send like if someone tells me it's their birthday or their anniversary, I'm going to run my 10th marathon or just anything. I take little notes and I'll send them a handwritten card. And sometimes I'll include a gift. And sometimes I just, hey, I'm just cheering for you kind of thing.
That's actually a really cool idea. The unreasonable hospitality list.
It's a great book. I mean, there's so many things that you can implement into your everyday life. But if you own a business and just connection with people, like how could you make a difference for that person's day? And honestly, that's just what I do every day. Like, how could I make someone else feel better? And because of that, people take care of me because I take care of them.
Yeah, it's almost like you're putting care in the healthcare right there. So I like it. As far as current challenges, what are some of the things you're facing now? I know folks around the country are facing staffing challenges. Is that something you're facing, or have you been able to apply your same methods to the staffing side as well?
My staff is incredible. I don't know. I am very lucky. I mean, I definitely feel like I compensate my team really, really well. One of the things that I changed 3 years ago is I changed everybody to a 4-day work week because I found that if somebody worked over 36 hours in a week, that they called out the next week. And it was something that I tracked very consistently. I was like, why does this happen? I have a headache. I don't feel good. My stomach hurts. Oh, I have this for my pet. And I was like, you know what? I don't work Monday through Friday. Why should they work Monday through Friday? So I changed it so that they're Monday through Thursday or Tuesday through Friday. I have 2 employees that like to have a midday week off, so they do Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, and then work Thursday, Friday. I see patients 3 days a week, and my associate doctor sees patients 3 days a week. We don't work weekends, but we do start early at 7:30, and then we end at 6.
Gotcha. I like that. And, it's not you're actually not the first person I hear to say that. That's actually made a huge difference in terms of staff stability.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. Like I get to the end of the year, I'm like, you guys have PTO, you can kind of
They're
use
like, we're,
this.
we're good. We have 3-day weekends. What's the point? Yeah, I like it. And as far as what are you excited about for both your practices? Let's start with your practices first, and then the industry. So, what are you excited about for your practices over the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years?
One thing I'm really excited for this year is I'm actually going to do an optical redesign. So I used a company out of the UK who's really, really into retail. So, like kind of idolizing like Hermes and the experience that you get when you go into a high-end Louis Vuitton or something like that. And so they helped me redesign my optical space. So in November, I'm going to start that project. And then from there, we're going to switch to an entirely styling experience. So you can't come in and try on glasses, but you can be styled. And so right now, we really do probably 85% styling, but you get that occasional patient that says, I just want to look, you know? And I typically find those people don't do well with what we offer because we're there to communicate. We're there to build a relationship. And if you're that way, you're just not a great fit. You're not going to like what we do or how we do it. Um, and so I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really excited to work less at the office and see less patients. So in January, I work 9 days. In February, I work 10 days. And I'm like, okay, well, how can I work less? So I think over the next 5 years, I'd like to be running my practice, but not seeing patients.
Well, I think you hit on that, right? Empires are built several different ways. We've had people that have like 20 locations, right? We've had people with like, 10 doctors in one location, especially like aesthetics and things like that. And like yourself, like, hey, I want to have a great, unique experience and a good lifestyle. That's my empire. I love how you frame that. Um, so what are you excited about in the industry?
I just think optical. I mean, I think if we can do, with all these practices being gobbled up by private equity and people looking for more numbers, people are truly looking for that one-on-one experience. They're looking for that care. They're looking for that. And and we're not talking, I get people that come all the way from like farm town out in the middle of Metter and Alabel, Georgia. And they're like, this is so cool. I feel so good coming here. I'm so thankful for you. You're the best I've ever seen. And I think that's what optometry needs to look forward to is just that people want that connection. They don't want to be a number. In healthcare in general, I mean, I went to the doctor this morning and I was like, "Oh my god, if they just did 2 things different, I wouldn't be sitting here complaining."
I like that. And, optometry, one of the reasons I like it so much, I'm not a doctor. My wife is, but I like it because you could practice so many different ways. If you want to focus on heavy medical, rural care, and just be a healthcare access point, you can do that. You want to be a unique boutique location with a unique experience, you can do that in the industry. So many levers you could pull on based off your personality and what you like. Yeah. And so with that, I'm curious. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. Can you share with us a story that was formative to you? So it made Erika into who she is today. Could have been when you were much younger, could have been more recent, but a formative story that you could share.
So I'm one of 8 kids. Um, I grew up in poverty. I'm the only one of my mom's children that went to college, and, um, my brother always tells me, when is enough ever gonna be enough?" And I'm like, "Never." I mean, like, if I could be 1% better tomorrow, why would I not, you know? And I've met so many people in my lifetime that I'd always say, "I never wanna be like them," or I'd meet people that say, "Wow, they have this figured out. What could I learn from them?" And so, I've met some people along the way, one of which was like a foster family. I was in foster care when I was younger, and I just followed that couple through their life through social media, and we've stayed connected. And it's like, wow, okay, so if you pour into this type of thing, you can get so much more back from it. And I think honestly, just my life experiences have been the reason that I do what I do every day. I don't necessarily chase the money, but it's been really rewarding because financially it's my office is obviously taking very good care of me.
Yeah. I hear that more often than not. I have like more than 3 siblings, right? Or 2 siblings and more than 3 kids. I imagine it was interesting growing up in that environment with a lot of competition and must have been fun.
I always wonder what people did when they didn't have more than a couple siblings nagging at each other all day long. So what'd you do?
That's funny. And so, I'm curious if you had to give yourself advice, let's go back to when you first graduated from OD school. What advice would you give to yourself knowing what you know now?
Don't ever change your idea of what you have for something else. So whenever I first went to open, I used a consulting firm and they're like, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this. And there's a couple things that I caved on and regretted it the whole time that it happened. And I was just disappointed in myself that I was okay to say no for some things, but I didn't say no to some things that were actually more impactful that I feel like kind of startled a little bit of my growth. But I mean, I've grown really, really, really fast. So I can't be too hard on myself, but I do wish I would have stepped back and said, nope, I'm not doing that. Thank you anyway. And moved on.
Anything you wanna share, like the things that they said that you were like, "No, I shouldn't have done that," or
So Vision Source, I don't carry any Luxottica products. I do business with independent laboratories as much as possible. Vision care plans, obviously, you have to use some certain products, but frame collections, you have to carry Ray-Ban. I'm like, I'm not carrying Ray-Ban. That's the silliest thing I've ever heard. There's no way that's happening, you know? And then, but the biggest thing was joining all of the vision plans. So then it was like, months of stuff trying to unravel. And I don't know why, but people that have Davis Vision and Spectara, they just tend to be like their plan. So it was just something that I had to unravel after the first 9 months to a year. And then I finally got off of those and I stayed on Vision Service Plan and IMED because I do specialty
Mm.
contacts, and medical reimbursement for that is very impactful. It makes me feel really good to give someone sight. So I do that. So it's really truly joining every vision plan and Vision Source. I was paying Vision Source $4,000 a month at the end of that for the last year and a half that I was with them. And it was just so much money that I was like, wow, I could do so much for my team or myself, you know,
Yeah, it's almost another person. I say that is another person's salary at least.
100%. When I saw that line item at the end of the year, I was like, oh my
And if you're not
God.
using their products, it's like, it's not as much of an advantage. Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, you get this rebate." I was like, My rebate with Johnson& and Johnson is a million times higher." And
Yeah. I think, nothing, I think there is a place for vision source folks. But I think you hit on the head. I love the insight of if you have a vision, stick with it. It can work in this industry, right? If you don't, if you're not sure or not married to it, yeah, I think that's a great path for a lot of people. A lot of people have really good success. I know a lot of actually high-end practices that are significantly larger than most that are built on vision source, so it can be done, but yeah, you're right. It's got to be your path. I love that insight. So if people want to reach out to you, Erica, where can they find you?
social media is probably the best way. Foresight Eye, so ForSighTeye. And then my website's forsighteye.net. We're in Savannah, Georgia. My practice is called Foresight Unique Eye Care and Eyewear.
Love it. And we'll put that into the show notes. And I always like to have a quick shout out section. Is there anyone that it was really influential to you in the industry that you want to say, hey, I'd like to shout out this person or that person? If you can think of anyone that might be like, oh yeah, this person was really helpful to me, or I like this person that I follow on social media or podcast, whatever. Any other resources or insight or any other people that you like?
I listened to 2020 Money a lot, whenever I was, like, out of optometry school and trying to figure out finances, like, what's the best way to do that. So 2020 Money was great. Power Practice was a wonderful resource when I was driving. And then, books, but for people, Tom Arnold, who is a scleral lens fitter, he's retired now, but he was definitely somebody I looked up to, as I was kind of becoming an expert in scleral lens fitting. And then when it comes to Optical Success Academy, Connor Haney has literally changed my practice.
Perfect. We'll put these in, people can kind of reach out to those folks too. It's always interesting to see where people get their insights. I like a lot of those as well. So thank you for sharing. And, and thank you, Dr. Morrow, for being a guest on the show.
Yeah, thank you for offering. Ryan referred me over, and he's like, "Erika, you should do this." I said, "Okay, I'm happy to do this."
Yeah, it was a great, great referral for sure.
You made it very easy, so thank
Yeah,
you.
it was fantastic. And, one of my biggest takeaways from today is it's okay to buck the trend and make every part of your experience unique and different because people will notice. Everything from the little details of asking questions consistently across the board, like how and asking the right type of question, like how often do you wear your contacts at night? Not do you wear your contacts at night, right? Little subtle changes like that. Along with which, hey, we know your favorite drink. We're gonna have it ready for you when you come pick up your glasses. Everyone gets the optical consultation. I like my calls to be long, not short. Those are all really good insights that I think that, okay, this is, if you really want to differentiate, just almost think opposite of the standard and you could possibly differentiate there.
Yeah, I love it. Hope it's helpful.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And thank you, audience. If you learned something or laughed, please share the podcast with a friend. And if you subscribe, you'll never miss an episode. And if you see the link in the show notes to book a meeting, I'll send you a free copy of my book, Optometry Redefined. Thank you again. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Dr. Morrow, for being a guest on the show. And this has been another exciting episode of Optometrists Building Empires. See you next time. That's a wrap on another episode of Optometrists Building Empires. Thanks for joining. For show notes and more, visit buildingempires.live. This show is proudly sponsored by My Business Care Team. My Business Care Team was born out of staffing challenges my wife and I faced together, managing multiple optometry locations. We refined our approach at Classic Vision Care and now offer our expertise to others. If you're experiencing challenges with staffing and you'd like to set up a discovery call, we'd be happy to help you and connect you with the right resources. We'll see you next time.